thewellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives. This is Up for a Chat with Cindy O'Meara, Karen Smith, and Kim Morrison.
Here we are, up for a chat about the hottest topics that are important to you, inspiring you to awaken the change within. I'm Karen Smith.
I'm Kim Morrison.
And I'm Cindy O'Meara.
And shut the front door. We have got, how do you even explain it? We've got two guests in the room with us today. One is a very hot little number that we met at a chiropractic conference. Cindy and I actually just happened to fluke it that we got to sit on this table, and I have to just be honest. I'm just gonna be honest. We sit down at this table at this conference for chiropractors, and I'm sitting next to Cindy, and I see everybody else on the table start whispering to each other. And I listen to what they're saying, and they're going, "That's Cindy O'Meara. That's Cindy O'Meara. Oh my God, that's Cindy O'Meara. She's sitting at our table. Oh my God, that's Cindy O'Meara." By the end of the night, best buddies with the fellow that we have in this room, Matt Horner. Absolutely hilarious, a little bit hot. And girls, got to say, not too bad, not too bad. So we had the best night playing around in Brisbane. It was so much fun. And then about a year later, I had the luxury of flying over to Perth to do a conference where I got to meet Matt's beautiful wife and two stunning children. And we also have this gorgeous wife here in the room with us today, Chelsea. Welcome.
Thank you.
And she's pregnant.
So things do get a bit hormonal.
I asked if they were over for a dirty weekend, and he went, "Well, clearly, done that."
So, been there, done that.
So I knew nothing about anybody on the table, but we started to meet people on the table, and I found out that Matthew was a chiropractor in Perth, and I thought, he's young. And so I'm thinking, my daughter. Didn't know he was married, did I? So I'm going, my daughter.
Wouldn't have changed anything anyway, Cindy.
It was so funny though. I'm like, oh, my daughter thinks this is perfect.
She said that to me too.
Yeah.
I said, "Cindy, you've got a wedding ring on." She said, "Oh, has he?" Oh, it's insane too.
It was hysterical because she leans over and she goes,
You had no idea.
I was going to take the wedding ring off that night as well.
he's married, Cindy. I went, oh, okay, fine.
You had no idea that was going on in the background, did you?
No idea.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't actually until you guys sat down. I had Catherine, who works with you guys, go, "That's Cindy O'Meara." I'm like, "Who's Cindy O'Meara?" So I just thought, great, just got two hot birds sitting next to me, and I was just going to lap it up. So.
Hysterical. But then you found out that I was the funny one, wasn't it?
Yeah, the hilarious one.
Absolutely. Well, once you told me you were the funny one, I was fully aware. So.
Okay, so I want to know who you are. I haven't met you till today. So I want to know what your background is and how you came to being at that conference, and also then I want to know how you two met. Well, you're just going to give us the whole story.
Give you the goss? Well, my background is, obviously I'm a chiropractor. I have been doing it for the last 5 years. I actually come from a really strong family of chiropractors, so I think I'm one of 13 or something like that.
Are you for real?
Yeah, so my dad said he would disown me if I didn't become a chiropractor myself, so I felt pressured into it. No, kidding very much. But so I finished school, didn't want to be a chiropractor at that point, but once I got out into the world, realised, this great need to see people improve their health and reach their potential, I decided to knuckle down, study, and actually my first year was actually when Chelsea and I got married as well, so...
First year out or first year of chiropractic?
First year in.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel for you.
So just ask Chelsea, who supported me all the way through.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
She'll let you know.
Yeah. I was the committed one who got my degree straight away, and so I had just finished my teaching degree and carried him through 5 years. But that was my one of 4 jobs to get him through uni.
Yeah.
You did 4 jobs.
Yeah, so
Which were
I was a
pole
drama
dancing.
teacher.
What was that?
Pole dancing.
That was just during college.
That's how I got it. No, drama teacher, and then I would tutor English or drama after school individually and teach piano students.
Wow.
And then I would sing in a band at night.
Okay, so we are so going to have to get you to bust that tune. I mean, it just has to happen. Don't you think?
That's it.
Well, considering Kazza is about to have some singing lessons.
Oh, yes.
I think actually it'd be very important that you did show us so that we don't have to endure the wrath of that while she's learning.
You should do, you want to do a really weird warm up. So okay, so you need to put your fingers like on either side of your mouth and then lift them slightly so that you've loosened your mouth, right? And then you need to be able to do like what a horse does, like the like that. You do that? Alright? So you're going to do that whilst going up and down a scale. So like, can you do that?
Oh my gosh.
So I drive the car with my hands like this, and the kids in the back going,
You're amazing.
So that I can loosen up my vocal cords.
How cool.
And then when you get going, you do like
to do it.
as hard as you can.
Oh my gosh.
So just as
Wow.
part of so all singers do that?
I would recommend it.
Only the really good ones can.
Yeah.
Only the good ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I always think, for singers, their voice is so important, obviously, but they must also get exhausted and tired.
Well,
and
it's like a muscle, so
Yeah.
you have to warm it up, you have to strengthen it, and then you have to let it rest and cool it down, and
So did you, when you say you supported Matt through college and the uni and all of the things that he was doing for those 5 years, do you mean you physically, as in you earned the dollars while he studied?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and what was he like, Chelsea?
Well, we have what we call uni Matt, whereas the larrikin, the fun lover that you see, he disappears and just goes into this zone of survival where it's like, I just have to do this right now, and everything's quiet and calm, and I sort of stare vaguely past you, and I just have to get this done, doll. So
Other people know it as focus.
yeah. And then once that last exam hits, the beer gets cracked, the footy's on, he's back.
He's back.
And then you get him
Back in the
until Cairo starts again.
So I'm interested then, you're saying you're one of 13 chiropractors. So, and your dad said, so just lead me into that. Like, who was the first person to become, like, is there a story?
Well, my grandfather, he was the first chiropractor, who was originally from New Zealand. So he studied in America.
And what was his name?
Bill, or William.
Bill
Yeah,
Horner.
Bill Horner. And so he came over to Perth, and he was a bit of an entrepreneur. He was a real go-getter, so he owned a farm and also had many practices around. So he had 4 kids. And back in those days, under the Act, chiropractors weren't actually legally termed doctor. So what he actually did is he actually called all 4 of his kids on their birth certificate doctor. And then their next name would actually be their middle names, just in case any of their kids decided to become chiropractors.
Isn't that amazing?
Legally, their name was actually Dr. Philip Horner or Dr. Jamin. Or, in my uncle's case, being the last name Horner, my grandparents, in their wisdom, decided to, on his birth certificate, call him Dr. Little Jack Horner. And
they did not.
No, they did.
Yeah.
So,
It is a well-known myth, but it's not a myth, but it's like this.
well, we've just confirmed
story.
it here.
I know. It's a
Broken
story
the story.
through the chiropractic profession. It is an
Yeah.
exclusive, and it's always been this thing that somebody called their kid Dr. Little Jack Horner. I
Yeah.
remember. I've known it for
And so it's
for
true.
years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so just in
that's
case
very
any of
true,
them decided to go on to become chiropractors. And then they obviously changed in the act where chiropractors could be referenced as doctor. And then my parents actually thought, oh, well, let's carry on this tradition. So they called my brother Blake, his first name was actually Doctor, even though chiropractors could be called Doctor at that point. And then they got to me and realised, oh, that's a pretty dumb tradition to carry on. So it finished there.
I'm so glad about that.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Can I just go back to your grandfather? So, what do you know? What year that was in Perth? 19.
Oh, I'd have to be in the 60s, I'd say.
The 1960s,
60s or
50s.
yeah, possibly.
Probably. So I do know, because my dad graduated in 1959 from Palmer College of Chiropractic. He started in Victoria as a chiropractor in the 1960s, so I think it was around June 1960. And he was the 11th chiropractor in Victoria and the 40th in Australia. So your grandfather was probably one of the pioneers of chiropractic. And if we want to go back and look at the history of chiropractic, it's been persecuted. They've put money aside, political medicine has put money aside to get rid of it. They didn't like this drugless art of healing. And so this is the position that your grandfather was in, is that if they did do that and stop them being able to be called doctors, because in America you've got a doctorate.
Yes.
But in Australia you get a Bachelor of Applied Science with an honorary doctorate. But so do medical doctors. They get a Bachelor of Science, but they're honorary doctors. They actually are not like a PhD doctor or anything like that. Yeah, so I remember
I didn't know that, Cindy.
Sorry?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so that's where your grandfather was that he wanted his sons to be, it was all sons, wasn't it? No?
Yeah, and one daughter.
One daughter.
I don't know if she got the doctor, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, but that's what the whole premise, and this, like I said, this is an urban myth that we're now showing is actually
breaking
fact.
news.
Your grandfather was really protecting the profession and
Well,
protecting...
it's very innovative.
Very innovative, very innovative. Especially the little Jack one. I like that one.
He took it too far there, I think.
With Jacob, I've got a son called Jacob, but when I was pregnant and we thought we were going to have a boy, and we knew his middle name would be Daniel because I'm married to a Daniel. My husband's going, what's wrong with Jack? Jack Daniel would be great. And I just went, you're just taking it a little bit too far, which is why we settled on Jacob Daniel. So
what's his nickname though, Kim?
Yeah, Jake. Yeah, JD. Jake, little brat.
Yeah.
Naughty. Yes, all those things. So you've got 2 children. Mm-hmm. I'm fast forwarding a little bit because I want to go back to the story again. But I just need to know, did you call them doctors?
No.
Okay, great.
No.
I was just checking.
Yeah, no, we're normal. Yeah, we're normal.
But to be a doctor now, you can get a PhD. There are many forms of getting it, and I think chiropractors have the honorary one, like medical doctors too. They actually are not PhDs, which is the people that are called doctors, but they have honorary doctorates. And I'm pretty sure. Where did you graduate from?
Over in Perth at Murdoch University.
You're at Murdoch.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. We did talk about that too. Yeah, Murdoch, because that's where my daughter Casey is at Murdoch. And I remember your advice to me when I was saying about Casey. Your advice to me was just say, knuckle down, do what you need to do, and then get out and do what you want.
Yeah, we always live by the mantra there. It's just cooperate to graduate. Don't go there to get an education. Just go there to get your degree.
Yeah.
So your education takes place in listening to podcasts and going to seminars and things like that.
Yeah.
Would you say that the same for any degree? Like, what about your teaching degree? Do you teach differently to teachers?
Well, I didn't find that my degree tried to dictate how I should be in a classroom, but rather give me the avenues to work out how I want to be in the classroom. So I found that to be a lot more of a taking you through that process as opposed to being a bit more autocratic.
It's actually interesting. My mum's just completed her Bachelor of Creative Writing here on the Sunshine Coast, and a guy came in when they first started the year, this year, and he came dressed in an outfit. I think he was a knight in shining armour, and he said to them, "Don't let your degree stand in the way of your education." He said, "You're here for an education." He said, "Yes, you'll get a degree." He said, "But don't let the degree be what you're here for." He said, "You're here to be educated." So it's tragic actually then that a degree can just or a learning institution can be more about conforming rather than...
Well, it's an institution. So it is about conforming. And that's what an institution is. You go to an institution, you're institutionalised within the degree that you've decided to take. So medicine is institutionalised, chiropractic is institutionalised, teaching is institutionalised. So we're all institutionalised, and so then what we have to do is, you're right, once you get out, then you start to do your learning processes. Like I think about how I was institutionalised with my degree. It was, low fat, high carb, eat margarine, all of this stuff. And you've got to cooperate to graduate.
It was, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think so. I think, people don't have the appreciation of just how amazing the human body is. So we try to put a box on it, and we just try to put all these boundaries in place. And then for some people that's scary. So we have to try to put boundaries on it, and unfortunately, we as students, you miss out on a lot on the actual what is possible.
What would you say is your greatest philosophy or value then around chiropractic? If I was completely new to it, what would you say to me that chiropractic is, and how does it differ to traditional medicine or traditional orthodox therapies?
probably like a big thing is understanding that all the healing power that you need is within you. And so now it's about finding ways to get that out. It's not about taking a drug. It's actually about how do we get that out of you. And, using what we do with the adjustment and other supportive, modalities, whether it be nutrition and exercise and, where the mindset's at and things like that. It's about having that appreciation of that the human body is so amazing and we don't even fully understand it yet. So let's respect it for that and then just find ways that we can then just help express and get that potential out.
Nice.
So,
And do you think everybody is healable?
well, it depends on what you look at what sickness is. So if someone with cancer, is that someone who's sick? Or is someone without cancer but with real faulty behaviours that's sabotaging their relationships? So we like to look at a diagnosis because if we can put a label on it, then we can treat it. But we can have people out there that are in a low vibration state who aren't expressing life to its full potential. I see them as sick. And so whatever we can do to help bring people closer to their purpose or closer to reaching their greater potential, I think we can help. I think everyone can benefit from chiropractic.
Is there an optimum level of health that we should all be aspiring to?
I think it's relative to everyone. So I think it's looking at you and you living at your optimum in all the different areas of your life, whether it be socially, financially, physically, spiritually, whatever it is. I think everyone has an optimum. And I think we should always be going for it. Because once we achieve, I don't think you achieve it, I think it's a journey. At the moment you achieve it, then it's, well, what next?
No, I agree with you. I think everybody has an optimum. And the thing is that we actually talk about this a lot, is that most people have lost their way and they have been institutionalised within the ranks of a diagnosis and treatment. So we had Dr. Sarah Farrant here over a year ago, and Sarah said diagnosis means die, meaning two, agnosing, two people who don't know, and treatment means treating the mind. So when you actually look at the actual terminology of it, and when you look at the statistics of diagnosis and treatment, that one of the greatest clinics in the world, which is the Mayo Clinic, only has a success rate of 36%, that they diagnose the right disease and treat with the right treatment, and 36%. So when we don't diagnose and we don't treat, but we allow our human body to have its full potential, then I think that that's a far greater way to look at health as opposed to let's diagnose, treat, done. Would you agree with that? Rather than looking at a diagnosis and a treatment, why not just raise the vibration of the human body through chiropractic, nutrition, mental attitude, sleep, all of those things?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's about treating the person as whole and complete. So it's about actually looking at the person as a whole entity, as opposed to just picking something out and trying to reduce that or reduce the noise of that diagnosis. That's where I think we've got really boxed in with what our view of health is. People just want to reduce the symptoms as opposed to what do I need to actually do to actually eliminate the cause, or what choices have I not made that's actually driven me to this state. Yeah.
And I love the way you say you see the body as whole and complete. So even though a person can turn up in your clinic broken or all sorts of stuff going on physically, you still see the body as whole and complete. So if I turn up into your clinic, I don't see myself as whole and complete, but you hold that view for me.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really compelling, because it's, you go into a medical practice or a medical centre, and they're not holding that view for you. They're acknowledging and agreeing, yes, you are broken. In fact, you're more broken than you think, so you're going to need some extra stuff. So they're not holding that view that you are, in and of yourself, have and always will be, whole and complete. Now let's just support you so that you know that again.
Yeah.
Or that you experience yourself as that again.
Absolutely. And it's really important to have that mindset, because if the moment you take away hope, the fact that I have, when we see whatever the person in their broken state may be, having that philosophy and that knowledge of that, seeing them complete, means that I then have a hope for them. And so we can actually share that hope with them, as opposed to, I just accept it.
Yeah. I think the way to liken that is the minute you give birth. You see that baby as whole and complete. Absolutely. And beautiful, and a whole life of potential in front of you, and you'll do whatever you can as a mother or a father to create that holistic environment in order for that to express itself in its fullest way. How have you both, did you match values and philosophies before you met, like when you came together?
We didn't meet each other on a dating site, so we went the traditional way. Just got out in the world, so I think we came from quite similar backgrounds, and so there wasn't any intention to go through that stuff. But I think you always have to work through stuff as any married couple does. We're coming up 10 years now, so you go through your highs and lows through that. But you do solidify your values through that.
So what's your background, Chelsea, as far as your thoughts about health? Because I know I was brought up in the same way as you, Matt, in that I was brought up in a chiropractic household. I was the belief of holism, vitalism, the innate intelligence of the body. Give it the right resources and it will do the right thing by you. Whereas my husband was brought up in a very medical world, and so there had to be conversations about how we were going to bring up our children. Where were you in your stance on how to bring up the children in their health, as far as their health goes, and every other way?
I think that my parents are definitely a lot more medically minded than when Matt grew up. However, not to the point of thinking that was the only solution. They weren't they weren't really stuck in that paradigm. But we have a lot of mental illness in our family, and definitely when it came to that side of things, it was just about, well, that's just how it is, and so we need medication to source that, to help with that. But I never took on that, because observing that from my brother and my mum and my cousin and my grandfather and everybody else in the family go a little bit nuts.
They might listen to this.
They know.
They know.
You think we have a reputation when it comes to chiropractic?
Yeah, watch out. Yeah, but it was so obvious to me that wasn't the truth. It's like, well, you've been taking this for years. So for me, that was never something that I was intending to
When
follow
were you
down.
of the belief? How old were you when you started having that belief?
Since I can remember. I've been around it since I can remember. So it was just always like, well, that doesn't make sense. If it makes sense, if that actually all you needed, then it would be fine. So there's obviously other issues going on there. And what I found with my mum and my brother especially, that once that bit of ownership was taken, which has happened slowly over years, that's where I really started to see an improvement. Or really, the mum and the brother that I always saw coming out of almost like a trap, and it wasn't the medication that did that. The medication probably kept them from, causing all our lives to be a bit more difficult. But for them as people, it was when they were actually starting to go, you know what, I'm actually going to delve into this and see and look at why I make these decisions and why I'm triggered by this and stuff. That's really made a difference to them, and I think I've applied that to myself as well. I'm seeing a lot of benefits. With actually looking at, well, what actually is the source of this, and looking beyond physical. Is it mental? Is it emotional? Is it an experience? Where is it actually coming from? Let's have a look at that, and have seen health improve hugely for myself and in my family. And then so it was almost refreshing for me, the understanding of chiropractic, because I was just like, well, that, of course, so it didn't take me much to jump on board.
Literally.
Yeah.
See, we told you, we warned you, she would go there.
Well, going on from that is when I told Chelsea that we had all been born at home as children, she was very adamant, do not ever think that I'm having children at home. Oh. And you can ask Chelsea how many kids we've had at home now.
How many kids have you had at home now, Chelsea?
All of them. All of them. Planning a third. Yeah, love it.
Nice.
Yeah. But it was funny because, although I really said that, his mum, her first baby, she was on a commercial video, and I'm like, what? And then I hear this coming to his family. I'm the first girl. So he's got 3 brothers. I'm the first official girlfriend coming into that family, and so I'm paving the way. All the other girls can thank me, and and I just remember sitting at the dinner table like, you did what? Like you're all over everywhere, but Matt, and they never try to push their view, but Matt just started to say, well, have you ever thought about the fact that if you're at home that the husband gets to have a bit more of a participate in that process. And I'm like, oh, okay. Have you ever thought about the fact you get to sleep when you're in bed? Have you ever thought about the fact that once you go into labour, you don't have to pack up and stress and get to the hospital, you just go up and turn the TV on? And I was like, oh, actually, these kind of things sound quite nice and relaxing. And the program that we've birthed in is a government-funded program, Community Midwives in Perth. And so you get the best of everything, because I've got these amazing qualified midwives who are there to cover the medical safety side of things, and then we get the power to be in charge of the atmosphere and the process and stuff like that. So, I love birth.
Do you get a pool?
Yeah, births in water. Yeah.
One of our girlfriends has had, she had her baby at home, and she had a midwife as well, and she did hypnobirthing. So through the whole pregnancy, she said, no one is allowed to tell me about their war stories. I don't want to know about it. I'm not even going to allow my mind to go there. I'm not imagining anything. She said, if you've got a good birth story, I'm happy for you to tell me, but if it's not a good birth story, I don't want to know. And she ended up giving birth at home, but her husband had said, no, you're going to the hospital. Anyway, it didn't work out that way. Straight after the baby was born, she said, I could do that again. That did not hurt. And I had her on my show, Karen's Couch, just recently.
I saw that.
Yeah, and she got quite emotional about it. And shortly after we had her on, we had the midwife on. And it was really it was such an empowering, because I don't have kids, so it was such an empowering conversation to have, to actually hear the relaxation, the sense of calm, the sense of peace. Because, when you haven't had kids before and it's your first one, all you think of when it comes to having babies is legs in the air and screaming and scratched faces. And
are you talking about making the baby? Or... Sorry, you lost me there for a moment. I beat into it, didn't I?
Oh, you did. Yes, you did. Hello. Welcome to the show. She's happy now.
Sorry, keep going.
No, I didn't ruin my moment.
Who's the hilarious one now?
Yeah. Oh, don't you worry, girlfriend. I'll be taking that mantle right back.
I think it's so true about that. About the, I'm totally not anti-hospital birth or anything, but just about that understanding that the process of birth isn't just about the baby coming out at the end.
Yeah.
But it's always a rite of passage. And if you take that power away from a woman, I think that it's something great. It's like I have friends who I know, they're like, oh, no, it's okay. I just, wish that, I could have been able to, that kind of thing. And I'm not saying that's home birth. That still might be, I need to have a cesarean because this is the best choice for me at this time and for me, my baby. But the power needs to come from that person. And I find that that's the beauty of how we birth. And a lot of women get that taken away simply because it's just about getting the baby out. You should be happy because your baby's alive. And I think that birth is, it's so emotional. It's so much more than that. And I found that once after I'd given birth, I was like, I am like Superwoman now. I'm like created a human, And so for me, I remember even walking down the street and just there was a difference. I was like, I'm like, I am a woman.
I'm invincible.
Yes, I was just thinking.
I am woman. Do you know what I thought? I thought, is that what they're all been talking about? Because you have your horror stories.
Yeah.
And they all talk about it. Mine was after the birth of my first child. I went, oh, that's what they've been talking about. It was like you're in a knowing. No one can tell you what it's about. And it's like that you now are in the knowing. And there's only a select group of people that get to be in that knowing. And they are women who give birth. So the men never get to experience that. So that's what I felt. It was like a aha moment in my life. Yeah.
I felt that the thing about the hospital, because both of mine were born in a hospital, I feel looking back that it was done with fear as opposed to power. So my midwife would have been, and the thing I love in New Zealand, midwives are actually a lead maternity carer. So you don't have a GP. And here in Australia, it really staggers me how the midwife is not seen with power, which is why I think the more younger ones are having home births and really giving voice to the midwives, I think it's a really powerful place to be, because they are really in it. A doctor, I think, has a place if there's complications, and certainly if they're really into birth, they're a beautiful person probably to have around. But in all honesty, my experience was that the hospital, you had to have your baby at hospital because if anything goes wrong. And I kept saying, but what if it goes right? And they were like, oh, no, but your placenta's, you've got an adhesive placenta, it could be placenta breviaria, so we're going to have to... I went into hospital freaking out, thinking, oh my gosh.
I think most people do though, don't they?
Well, fear's a big motivator for people. And
To go to the hospital.
yeah, and I don't want anything, I think fear's a big motivator, especially the way, with the media today. We like to sensationalise everything and put out all the bad stories on the news. So fear's a big motivator for people, and it will drive them to do whatever's necessary, whatever the doctor tells them to do. They'll do
You're
it.
right. There's a lot going on about fear. Like, the whole thing on Ebola at the moment.
Oh.
It's like a frenzy at the moment regarding it. And we have haemophilia in our family, and in the 80s there was the AIDS crisis, and all my uncles got AIDS as a result of blood transfusions. And my aunt is on social media at the moment just going, this is exactly like AIDS. I've seen this before. There's a frenzy about it. Everybody gets scared. They don't want to be with people that have got Ebola or AIDS. And she's just basically saying it's like this whitewash happening of fear that is stopping us looking at another issue that's more important, and that's humanity. So, you're right. Fear motivates a lot, and fear motivates us to go to hospital.
There's a really good documentary. Remember the old TV show host Ricky Lake?
Yeah.
She did a really good documentary on the business of being born. That's the title of it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, really good. And from what I remember, she came from the position of her friend was pushing home birth, and she was anti it, so she went into self-exploration of why would I want to have a home birth? And then they were showing studies that show that in hospitals, when it came to C-sections, there was a huge spike at 2 times, and it happened to be the hour before doctors were knocking off from work, because for them you only get paid upon delivery. So yeah, so what they were finding is there was this huge spike at, for example, 8 a.m, because that's when the doctor would knock off and the new doctor would take over, and then another one at 5 p.m. So then it started to go where these obstetricians were making decisions for the mum, but with this conflict of interest based on, the payment at the end of it. And at the end of it, she has a home birth herself. So
she went from she had a hospital birth, and she felt like something for her was missing or lost, and then went this exploration, and then had her birth at home, and felt like she found what she was looking for almost. So it is really interesting, really eye-opening. It is American, which is a little bit different to here, but it's really good food for thought.
if you want to watch my mum's home birth one, I can get that
So we did that with her.
Oh, you did?
Yes. You don't recall that? Or have you blocked that from your memory?
I would suggest you would.
I went to counselling for that, I think.
And she's American, so it's like, and here he comes,
Was it your birth?
I think it was my birth, wasn't it?
Was it your birth?
Yeah.
Matt's birth.
And this is back in the 80s before Brazilians as well, kids, so...
That's traumatic.
Oh man, we're sitting in a room, looking at her vagina. I mean,
But I didn't even think about it. I had videoed my birth, and I had photos at the births and everything, and I thought everyone in my family would want to see the photos because I just thought it was such an amazing thing. So my poor family are like, oh my gosh. Anyway, but I just thought it was so
civilised.
well, I should have been born into chiropractic ways, because I was very tribal and very open. I had a grandstand, right? Because I figured people who don't get to experience and watch it, I'd been to 6 births before I gave birth, and I thought it was such a privilege and such a amazing celebration that I wanted people that I knew couldn't have that opportunity if they wanted to be there. I mean, they had to be special. That wasn't just like...
Whereas I didn't want anyone near me. No,
Oh, it was only my family.
Yeah, but I didn't even want my mother, my sister. I wanted nobody near me. I just wanted Howard. I wanted definitely Howard to be there.
Lucky.
Yeah, just Howie. And because Fran was pushing to be there, I said, yeah, come in, Fran. But I would have been quite happy with nobody. Just wanted to be by myself, just do it. Because you go into yourself. You go completely into yourself and you really don't know what is happening around. And I kind of I didn't want interferences because I had Fran at my ear saying, shh, you'll be fine, shh. But I didn't want to be shh, 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 shh. I wanted to express how I was feeling,
Yeah.
And I didn't express a lot. I wasn't a loud labourer, but
Loud labourer?
Oh, yeah.
The good thing is we live in a rough part of the neighbourhood, so they themselves are domestic. Bloody names are at it again.
I go from this high pitched thing to a earthy roar at the end. Yeah, so I can tell the baby's coming because she's gone.
And you know that even when you're at a birth,
just put it on tape first.
I'll catch her.
you hear a woman actually get to that primal, tribal kind of call, and that's when you know that she is getting to the next stage of labour. It's natural. And so to be told to shush or to have an interference is very interruptive. I just want to ask you guys something. I just find
Here
this
we go,
quite
look at
amusing.
it.
No, I'm being serious. No.
She's got... It's on YouTube. It's on YouTube. Somebody put it on the net.
Now, I've got a whole lot of people going through a program that I'm running at the moment, all learning about essential oils. And one of the beautiful girls in the group she's got a very good anatomy and physiology understanding. She's got qualifications. But she asked this question, and I want to see if you guys will see the humour in it. Not humour, because it was a serious question, but I just want you to understand the humour in medicine. So a friend has a nasty chest infection, so planning on making her an immune boost for her chest, but she's pregnant. I know we've done the safety module, but I just want to make sure that 4 drops and 20 ml of carrier oil is considered okay, considering what she's been through. If something was to happen, of course, the oils could be blamed. Would any other remedies that could help? She's going into a salt room today, hopefully, thanks. Then the feedback was, okay, I started the start of the chest infection, so I've been on antibiotics. Then it's turned into a nasty, nasty coughing non-stop to the point I can't breathe, so I'm on Ventolin. I've been to the doctors 3 times and my OB, and they've said that the bub's okay. But then I was put onto an EBI and the doctor to help me breathe to open up the chest. I'm taking Panadine and steroids, and he's told me rest. I thought there might also be something else that could help with the breathlessness. I just went back going...
4 drops of oil?
You're worried about the 4 drops of cedarwood? I kind of sit there sometimes when I listen to people get so fearful around what these natural therapies will do for a pregnant woman when they're happy to take these medications or tablets to stop them with nausea, or they don't blink an eyelid.
No.
What's your thoughts around that?
Well,
That's a big one, Kimmy.
in one sentence, Kim, or...
You've got all day.
One thing that I find amazing when it comes to natural therapies is, the authorities like the medical field, if it's an adverse reaction, they give this huge power to the 4 drops of cedarwood can, cause a stillborn, but they don't give it the same power in the positive. So it's like, no, I can't have a positive effect, but it can only have negative effects. And I find it amazing that they will say that it's got no power unless it's a negative. And I just find that amazing. They'll only talk about, and it creates fear. And then, because you've got a person in authority making those comments, and think, well, they're not going to just tell me lies, are they? And so we just go on to believe it, and then we share that with our friends, and they share that on with their friends, and then just all of a sudden it's gone through the village saying, like, don't take that, cedarwood that Kim gives you, it kills your babies. So where'd you hear that? Oh, I don't know. Heard it somewhere. And it's, I think it's about trying to demystify all the information that's out there.
Yeah, but I think you've just made a really good point, is that they give no power to it in the positive, but only, if it creates a stillborn, that it's the negative. That's just that just is a aha for me.
Yeah.
And it used to have power. So
Yeah.
in centuries gone by, our doctors were herbalists, and they were very much about tinctures and sitting with you and bedside manner and rapport and feeling the body and all of that. And then as we've moved away and realised, and what Kurt Schnaubel always talks about, is the fact that there's no money in a herb, but there's a lot of money in a drug and the research and a lot of the oils, for instance, from my point of view, there's no double-blind studies done on certain things because it's been around for 4,000 years, documented, but there's no double-blind, so therefore it's got no validity, and therefore, but the double-blind scenarios on such and such a drug and the money invested, I just sit there sometimes going, wow, sometimes we can't even, because we don't have a science or some sort of research, is that where we're undoing ourselves in Western culture?
Yeah, I think so. And I think we've also lost the appreciation of intuition. So, one thing is, we really try to push them. It's like, what's your gut telling you? I mean, because that's so perceptive. We don't even fully understand. It's only up until recently that we now say that the gut is an extension of the brain, which was, a foreign concept. So we're still learning so much, and we perceive so much that we don't even understand yet. So, getting back to trusting that intuition is really important as well.
But what's the underlying fear for doctors then? If this is the case, how could doctors not sit on the same platform as what we're all suggesting here and actually go, that's interesting? Now, is it money? Is that the only driver?
Yeah, absolutely. Because who's got something to lose if we go to natural medicine?
I think the pharmaceutical companies are the ones, and they control political medicine, and then medical doctors are institutionalised within political medicine.
Yeah.
But you find that there's these breakaway splinters that are happening, and I'm meeting them all the time, and these are doctors that are institutionalised come out and go, this isn't working. I'm giving this drug and this drug and this drug to these symptoms, yet they're getting sicker and I'm having to put them on another drug. So I think I believe that there is a really nice grassroots movement happening within the medical field. But the problem is, I was talking to one from Tassie over the weekend. He's under APRA, APRA?
Yeah.
Okay, I can't remember what exactly it stands for, but it's a rap on the knuckles type of...
it's the regulation board.
Regulation board for chiropractors, medical doctors. He's being pulled up by them and looking at what he's doing. And all he wants to do is change food in hospitals.
Yeah.
That's all he wants to do. He says, I'm an orthopaedic surgeon. I treat diabetics for knee and ankle problems because of their diabetes, and then you feed them carbs.
Yeah.
And he goes, it doesn't make any sense. What's the point in me fixing him if you're just going to create more problems? So, and the whole double-blind study thing, I heard this the other day. I thought it was quite funny. And I understand what a double-blind study is, but somebody said, why do we need a double-blind study when we have two eyes? Seriously.
Have you found also that some of the people that we've met, the doctors in the orthodox world, become interested in holistic or alternative or complementary, whatever we want to call it, medicine, when they themselves have gone through a health crisis, because then they realise what they're doing isn't working. And often, and I can't remember who we were talking to, and they said it's often when it hits the doctor themselves that they
or their
realise,
children.
or someone very close.
Or like Natasha Campbell was her child, the head of the AMA, or she was the head of the AMA, Karen Phelps, it was her, and all she did was go to her doctor, and the doctor just kept wanting to give her drugs, and she said, this isn't working, So, yeah, you're right, it is. But as far as chiropractic goes, I think you've already got the idea before you even go into college. You know what the body's capable of doing. Most people, not all, but most of the students that go in understand well, that's my belief. Maybe I'm wrong here.
No, I think for the majority, yes. You don't become a chiropractor so you can go out to the community and be popular. Like you're not doing it because it's like the most popular choice and everyone loves you and there's no adversity to what you do. Like it's because you've actually got at a gut level. It's like no, something's not right here, and I'm just trying to do my part to change that. So,
give me a brief way on how chiropractic works compared to orthodox medicine. So what's
maybe a case study. I've been thinking this the whole time. A case study of yours they've maybe been to medicine. You were their last hope.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe the premise for understanding is We're not a reductionistic point of view, so we're not looking at classifying symptom and just simply quietening that symptom down or reducing that symptom. That's the same as if your house is burning down and your fire alarm's going off. I can either just take the batteries out, so now there's no longer a siren going off, but the problem still exists. So we're right from the very start saying we're not just here to reduce symptoms, we're actually about trying to find the cause. From our point of view, it's about actually looking at the person from the whole. Yes, we will ask some questions specific to the complaint that usually drives them in, but then we start to look at other areas of their life in regards to what do they have in regards to the stress in their life. So whether it be physical stress, whether it be posture, repetitive tasks, sporting injuries, car accidents, whatever it is, that's physical stress they have in their life. And then there's also emotional stress, so relationships, how they're connecting with loved ones and family. There can be some trauma in there as well. Finances, that's a big one when it comes to emotional stress. And then we also look at chemical stress, so additives in our food, pollution, drugs, whether it be illicit or prescription, that all puts chemical stress on the body. So we identify what's stressing them, but then we also look at, well, what are we doing to increase our resistance? Now, we know a lot of them, nutrition's important, exercise, positive mindset, rest and relaxation, but you have to have a healthy nervous system. Now, our nervous system is what controls every function that goes on in the body. It's what copes with stress, it's what makes changes to stress, and that's how we're able to function in this world. Now, the nervous system is protected by the spine. Now, if your spine's not working properly because it might be due to poor posture or whatever it may be causing it, some sort of old injury, that's going to put stress then onto the nervous system itself because it's wrapped right around it. So if we can just clear out those channels by adjusting the spine is how we do it. There's other techniques of doing it. You're just giving the body an increased possibility or probability of being able to function the way that it was designed to do so. So we see people quite often coming in and it might be, I've got a low back complaint, and we will go through a full history and physical exam and do whatever tests we need to do to ascertain the full story of what's going on here. And yes, we might get rid of their pain, but when we start doing our progress exams or making sure we're doing our reviews to look at outcomes, we start noticing things like their sleep is improved and their breathing's improved. And now their relationships have improved and their life and intimacy has improved. Now, they didn't come in here saying, Matt, help me with my intimacy problem. But you start getting tired.
You've got it right.
But what happens is you start helping a whole person and you'll start to see it manifest in other areas of their life. Do I go out there and say, oh, you need to see a chiropractor because it will help with your intimacy? No, but the fact that we have an appreciation that the human body is amazing and we don't fully understand it and we see big changes take place in people, yes, it may help that, but that's not why you should see a chiropractor.
And do you think a chiropractic should be regular or is it only when you're in pain?
Do you brush your teeth once you see a cavity?
No.
Why not?
Because I wouldn't.
Yeah. Because you're trying to prevent cavities.
Yeah.
Do you get your car serviced once it breaks down?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same with the human body. We're really hard on our human body. We're back in the old. One study was showing that the human brain experiences as much stimulus in one day as what a human brain would experience in a whole year 100 years ago.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. So back in the old days.
Is that because of technology?
Well, think about the lifestyle of someone 100 years ago. They would wake up, have the same breakfast, go out into the field, do the same daily chores, to come home, have the same, nightly meal, which would have been all local produce and so forth, to do the same nightly routines and go to bed. Whereas now, we're driving a 1.5 tonne piece of steel down the road with another 1.5 tonne piece of steel coming straight at us. We miss each other by half a metre. And we do this by listening to the radio on our mobile phone, and because we're so busy, we're eating a meat pie. So look at the fuel we're putting into our body. We're requiring our body to do so much more tasks every day. So we're harder on our body than what we've ever been. And that's okay, but you have to look after it. Look at drag cars. They go 400 metres down the road, and then they rebuild it. So we're looking for the performance of a drag car, but we only have to service it like the old trusty diesel tractor. And that's what if you want to use your body hard, great, but you've got to look after it. We're using them harder than what we ever have before.
What's optimum then? Once a week, twice a week?
Everyone's an individual. Everyone's an individual. So, for me, I see some people every single week. Some people I adjust them every single week, and it might be because they've got an old injury that took place in their childhood, and they're still going out doing the same things that are aggravating or putting a lot of stress on it, and that's what their body needs. I have some people I adjust them once every 2 months. just to, everything's moving really well, no problems, how have you been the last couple of months? Fantastic, great, let's keep that. So, everyone's different.
I see my chiropractor, I was seeing her twice a week, and then I went to once a week, and then I went to once a fortnight, and then I had to go back straight away to twice a week. And I said to her, so how do you determine whether I come, how I come back? And she said, well, we look at how you hold your body. She said, we look at how you're holding yourself, in between visits, if your body holds itself well, so then you can continue to function.
Can it resist the stress?
Yeah.
So, and I tell people there's two things that I look for. One, how you're feeling, but two, what I feel. So if they say, I feel great, but I can feel all this tension building up in the body and it's trying to adapt to, it's being overburdened by stress. It's like, you might feel okay, but if we let this go on, now you'll start exhibiting symptoms down the track.
I think sometimes we have a warped feeling of what's okay. I mean, for some people, if you've been eating bad diet, or you think that's normal.
Yeah.
So I think having someone like you as a check-in as to how we're feeling. I mean, the three of us all met up at the chiropractors all at the same time the other day. It was so funny. Yeah. And we're fancy seeing you here. Yeah. But I think what I love about it, and my kids come, and they're coming every week. The minute I was pregnant with both my children, I didn't know very much about chiropractic, but I had them both booked into cranial osteopaths from the minute they were 6 months in my tummy. And we did a lot of cranial osteopathic work as they were born. But now, and they are like, I watch them on the table, they've had massage, they've had all sorts of treatment all their life, adjustments and things all their life, but they lie on the table and they are like, take me.
Yeah.
They so surrender.
Yeah.
Are you guys like that with your babies and like how do you look after your family? Is there a protocol around what you do in the home as opposed to the clinic?
Yeah, I mean, well, I work with Chelsea, so she's getting adjusted every week. We just got a phone call from our 3-year-old daughter this week saying, I fell over, Dad, I need an adjustment. The other day before we left, her throat was sore, I need an adjustment. So it looks at, from an early age, we've just instilled that value that it's about, your adjustment will just help your nervous system fire. And that's really important. So, I get adjusted regularly. Otherwise I wouldn't be able to do what I do. I'm hard on my body.
Can you adjust a baby while it's in the tummy?
Can I?
Or can anybody?
There possibly could be techniques out there. There are some techniques that chiropractors can use on the mother in regards to the positioning of the baby and things like that. I had actually one practice member call up probably about 12 weeks ago, and she's crying. I need to talk to Dr. Matt. Calls up and that's Dr. Matt chiropractor. Let me just, for the record. She's just got off the phone to her GP because she's just had an ultrasound and they're saying, the baby's breech, and they're, and he's saying I need to have a C-section and all of these, all this fear going on in her. I said, no, don't worry about that. I said, I know people where they're breech right up to the point and where they're in labour, and then, 1 hour before delivery, baby turns and it's just a normal birth. So then they have all this unnecessary angst. And so I just said, come in, we can do some things just to try to help, with the baby's position. And we did that. She went into labour and had a normal birth the next day. So, you hear those stories. Did chiropractic do that? I don't know. But, did I help give a better chance of that taking place? I think so.
Yeah.
And you certainly put her in a better frame of mind where she would have been less terrified.
She felt empowered again.
Yeah.
Because also now you have her doing something to help improve her health. So.
Well, Dr. Sarah Farrant, she had, I think her last was breech, and she birthed it at home breech.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. They had a midwife there that knew, and it was. This is the thing, is that we put fear in that breech isn't good, but there are a percentage of people that have breech babies, and you can birth a breech baby. Yeah. And I just think you're right. We just keep putting fear in it. Mm-hmm. I remember when my son was my firstborn, he was probably about 4 or 5 months, and Howard had actually gone away, but we needed a chiropractor to come in and help, and she was staying with me, and I could not settle Brogan down. No matter what I tried, I couldn't settle him down. So I woke up Lisa, it was Lisa Shelton, Lisa's listening, Dr. Lisa Shelton. I woke Lisa Shelton up and I just said, I can't get him to sleep, but can you just check him and make sure he's okay? Because this is all I knew. I didn't know anything else. I was brought up in a chiropractic family. This is all I knew. And she adjusted him. as the adjustment's finishing, Brogan just goes, poof, he just relaxed and fell asleep immediately.
My biggest warning to parents is, okay, my biggest warning to you after I adjust the child, and their eyes just go huge because they're expecting a fear, fear-based response. They'll probably go home and have a really big sleep. Oh. Because I've had parents that go home, their child has this huge sleep because that's what their body needs, but their nervous system's overactive and so forth. And they go in and wake the kid up because they think something's wrong. So they may have a really big sleep, just let them go.
It's amazing. Well, we had a story, we were travelling around Australia and we met up with a family that had 5 children in a Jayco. And the youngest was 6 months old. And the youngest wouldn't sleep.
What's the Jayco?
A Jayco van.
Caravan.
Sorry, a Jayco van.
Like a Winnebago.
And a Jayco is not a Winnebago.
No, it's not first class.
No, Karen, it's not first class. No.
Is there anything other than that?
It's camping, not glamping.
It is definitely camping, not glamping.
Yeah. Who goes camping?
I just let her tell the story. I just stay out of this.
Okay, Rachel.
I don't even know why you're interested. I mean, really.
Rachel.
So anyway, and he was a vet, and there was a conversation about nobody was sleeping in the Jayco because it's camping, not glamping. That's right. Anyway, Howard just said, do you want me to check your son out? And we called him Puggle. We called him the Puggle because he just was always wrapped up in his mother. And the Puggle is a baby, what are those, a porcupine, whatever they're called, echidna. It's a baby echidna, and they're called a Puggle. So
this is a bit cute.
It was. So we called this baby the Puggle. Anyway, that's beside the point. So Howard said, would you like me to adjust him? And because it was a vet who had a medical mentality, he was a bit nervous, but he went, oh, geez, we've got to have some sleep. So Howard adjusts this baby just before they go to bed. And they all go to bed. In the morning, the father stomps over to our caravan. And we didn't have a caravan, we had a bus. We did go glamping. Anyway, it stomps over to us and just went, and Howard's thinking, oh, shit, what's happened? And basically the father said, I didn't get a wink of sleep. I thought my child was dead. Didn't wake once. And it was like, now they live here on the coast. They followed Howard home. They have 7 kids now, and they're all chiropractic advocates because of that one thing. This child was obviously in pain. There was something happening. And I love that.
I want to ask you whether a person comes in with a cold, a flu, bronchitis, asthma, migraines, lower back pain, muscle aches and pains, is there a similar way that you treat all of these conditions, or is it really based on each case is quite different?
Well, they definitely all get seen to as an individual. So they might come in, showing those symptoms, but I'd very much focus on what is their body doing. And if we can help in any way to help clear out any interruption or obstruction to their body being able to express itself freely through the nervous system, I'm there to clear that out. And then, I'm not a nutritionist, so I'm not putting them on a strict diet plan, but I can at least help guide them or at least start planting the seeds of, have you talked to a naturopath? This is something that, if they need to go that way, or have you, whatever it is, talk to a personal trainer to start getting some exercise. Whatever it is they can do to help support themselves in increasing their resistance to stress. But I treat, I see every person as an individual and do what I feel is necessary for them.
And, if it's not necessarily, I'm just thinking of something in particular, and I haven't even asked my own chiropractor about this, so it's perfect timing.
Yeah.
So if a child's exhibiting behaviour that's just totally bizarre, totally bizarre behaviour, let's just say it's a little person hitting everyone and anything, and the behaviour is like the child is just really off the chain behaviour. Yeah. And constantly, would chiropractic be a good place for her to start?
Absolutely,
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I see with kids is they respond really well to adjustments. Like you see amazing results really fast with children. They're not carrying 20 years or 30 years of built up stress and tension. So, but one of the people that I see, her mum, this little boy that I see, his mum will bring him in, and her trigger is he stops listening. He's just being such a little shit at the moment. He needs an adjustment. Give an adjustment. Yeah, that's like a little trigger. It's like he's not paying attention anymore. So now do I say, any child with some sort of attention, disorder, bring him in. I don't put myself out there like that. But is a healthy, functioning nervous system going to benefit that child? Absolutely.
Look, I look at it this way. You know, these kids that can't stop, you know, they're constantly irritated and they're moving, and, you know, they call them ADD and ADHD. They must be irritated to have to move. You know, like when you're irritated. When you're irritated, you want to move. But when you're calm, you're happy to sit there. And I reckon these kids have irritated nervous systems to the point where the only way they can be comfortable is to be on the constant move. And they can't concentrate because their nervous systems are constantly irritated. And you know, you must, I'm sure you do see this over and over and over again. Once you take that irritation away from them, whether it be food, whether it be vertebral subluxation or whatever it might be, you see them change. You see them change completely.
And the thing that I think is really sad is that the parents in the community or the environment relates to that child like they're a troublesome child. Therefore, they get this belief that they're a troublesome child, and they start to see that the world's against them, but we're really underneath, and they don't know what's going on, but they're just crying out for help, so that when the adjustment does take place, they do change the diet or whatever they do, they could become a normal little person again. Then it's like everybody's meeting this child for the first time when they're 8, you know?
We had that with our 1.5-year-old. She obviously getting adjusted, eating fairly healthy. She was quite a happy, calm little child. And then we left a box of Ferrero Rochers on the couch and we went to bed. And by the time we got up, she had polished off at least half of them. And we're like, oh my goodness, you know, she's 1.5. She's very little. Never had sugar before. She's only like 10 kilos. She was really little. And she was furious. So she went through this like hyper screaming, the world is amazing for about 20 minutes and then plummeted to this like screaming, crying baby. And she was sitting in the corner, hitting her head against the wall and biting her arm. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I know it was that sugar. It's the only thing that changed at that time. And I was like, that's what sugar will do to you on that one moment. And like, you know, I was like, you look like that classic ADHD label right now. And it was such an eye-opener, but she was just nuts. And then...
What about school for you, Chelsea, with teaching?
Yeah.
Well, how do you manage all these different types, physical backgrounds, health issues? As a teacher, there's a lot of responsibility on you to manage these kids. And a lot of parents blame teachers for not controlling their child.
It's our fault.
Totally underpaid, I believe. But how do you manage that? How do you look after yourself through that?
Well, I think I'm mainly a drama teacher. That's my passion. And I think the reason I love it is the freedom in a drama classroom to be able to adapt to the people that you're teaching. I'm also an English teacher, and, you know, that's a lot more rigid in how you teach and the kind of classroom you're given, even, you know. So the thing that I love about a classroom, or the classroom I try to run, is I look at those kids and I try to see where they're at and then take them to that next step. Probably why I like the way that he thinks, you know, it's why it's easy to fall in love. And but yeah, just that whole like I try not to go, this is the way I teach, this is the way I like it. I go, who are you and what are your strengths and where are your weaknesses and where do I need to take you to? And that might be pushing them, and that might be the hard line, that might be the, you know, the standing behind them line or the encouragement. It could be any kind of thing, but try to look at them, what I think they need to move forward, and do that. And the freedom of drama classrooms, I can do that through the person that wants to be in the limelight or the person that wants to be writing the notes in the back corner. I have all of that at my disposal. And so, and the hard thing is that, you know, poor teachers, you actually aren't necessarily given that freedom to do that, which is hard because, you know, you're given deadlines and numbers to meet and minimal resources and big classes and small classrooms, and, you know, and so it's not necessarily, you might have that beautiful view of wanting to teach kids like that, but your hands are tied. But I think that's what teaching is, isn't it? I mean, it's showing them the path and their path, and I love it. It's just beautiful.
What's your thoughts around school and the education system as far as learning relationships, money, like understanding things outside of the real world.
Yeah.
What's your view on that?
Well, I think that
How do we get teachers? I mean, they've got the structure,
Yeah.
and yet all the real stuff that really goes on outside of the school is not really touched on.
well, no, but I don't think learning is just in a school. So I think, it's one avenue that we can't go, well, you're in school now, so you should learn, how to handle things emotionally, and you should be learning how to read and to write and reflect and be critical. Like, this is not going to happen. It needs to be applied across their life and all the people in their life, that whole it takes a village to grow a child thing. And kids learn in so many different ways. I think that... you just have to take every opportunity and every person being responsible for growing those people in their lives,
Well, this is where we started the podcast, was the institutionalisation of our education, and where do you really learn? You actually, don't learn it in the schools and the universities, you actually learn it in real life, and that's where we started from. I want to go back to your daughter. I'm sorry, I want to say this. When your daughter had the sugar and her whole personality changed, the three of us were at a dinner and they both had sugar. No, that's not it. What was this? The three of us were at a dinner and there was a whole scenario done. And it was about a type 1 diabetic boy and the emergency situation about this type 1 diabetic boy. And the mother, who was also the teacher of the boy, said that the months before he was diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic, he displayed behavioural issues like you were talking about, where he was out of control. And you know what? If we knew that this is what these foods are doing to us, and when I heard that, I didn't know that. I didn't know type 1 diabetics, they change their personality before they become that type 1 diabetic. So your daughter actually showed what a high sugar can do. And these kids have got high sugars because they're losing their beta cells and their insulin. Okay, so I just wanted to make that point because that really struck me when she was saying that, how he changed his personality. And I've heard it a couple of times, believe it or not, since.
And interesting that it's a lot of boys.
Yeah, a lot of the boys and
juvenile
juvenile teenagers, it's all happening. But we're past the hour. And I know, and I feel
Didn't
like...
even ask them about anything to do with their intimacy and how they got pregnant.
Oh my gosh. Well, I wasn't actually going to go there. Where I wanted to go was your accomplishments, Chelsea, and what you've just done with a husband who runs an amazingly successful business and a busy business, which you work in, with 2 little babies under what? 2 children under what? 4, and you're about to have your next in 8 weeks. Okay. And could you just tell everybody what you have just done with regards to your career?
Yeah, so just finished recording an EP, so a 5-track music album, and that's original songs which will be released on the 23rd of November.
And can you tell everybody where we can listen to this? And
oh yes, I can. So you'll be able to purchase it on iTunes as of the 23rd of November.
Woohoo!
Yeah. So if you search Chelsea Horner, and it's called Love Story, and that would be really
exciting.
awesome. That'd be really awesome. That would make me excited.
23rd of November.
What will happen is that this will probably... No, forget it. Yeah, we'll figure that out. We'll make sure that everybody knows how to find it. We'll get the link in there so that everybody knows where to find it, because I want to listen to it.
I'm going to listen to it.
Are we on your email list?
You will be.
Good.
Yeah.
You better be.
But I think the thing you were talking about today, though, is, about the possibilities, because when this sort of, the way it came to actually doing this is a really long story, but, you look, as you just rattled off all those things that, is in my life right now, and then adding this music album on, I know. But for me, it's that whole thing about what you're capable of and what your purpose is and stuff like that. Because when it came to it, I was like, I couldn't do that. I can't. I've got children. I've got responsibilities in business. All these reasons why I couldn't. But there was this driving, I suppose, almost like that purpose of but I need to, because it's who I am. And although, believe me, it was far from just smooth sailing, trying to coordinate all of that. I think what I really love to share with people is that you know what, if it's actually who you are and it's your purpose, like, you can do it in despite of the resistance, and the world's a better place for the fact that you did, because that's the gift. That's your gift. And, I hope that people get that through it, because I am just like everybody else, and I've got all those things going on, and it's there. Like, it's actually did it the other day, because I got a master truck. I had to check all the coding and all that kind of stuff. You know, when you put it in your car and your name, like the artist comes up. There's my name, you know, and I just burst into tears. I was just like, I did it! Like, I actually did it, you know, after booking, you know, someone's calling 20 people in a day to get a babysitter. I'm like, oh, sorry, I'm not busy, and, you know, like, and just all these different things, and trying to time all this kind of stuff, and then be all creative and free and all at the same time. And I was sick on the 1 week that I had to record, so I'm nasally like, and this trying to, you know, it took me ages to get the singing right and all this kind of stuff, and then, but I'm like, and in despite of all that, like, in 2 weeks there it is, you know. So
sometimes women, when they're pregnant, actually become even more creative. They're kind of like everything's flowing.
I think mine was the other way around, because I started and then became pregnant. So everything was flowing.
She was getting creative. Let me tell you. After the pregnancy.
Yes, the scratchy bass and all. Yes. Matt, how do people find you then? All our WA listeners, how do they find you?
Yes, so I have a couple of practices. So I'm in the regional areas of WA, so in Narrogin and Brookton and Corrigin. You can definitely just Google any of those places, you'll find me. And I'm also in Ferndale, so my name of practice is Horner Chiropractic. There's a website, hornerchiropractic.com.au. But, you know, I always tell people, you know, you don't have to see me, just get seen by a chiropractor, wherever you are. It's... You know.
That's the one thing I love about chiropractic, actually.
Absolutely.
There is a real sense of community, even when you go in there. Compared to a doctor's surgery, when you walk into a doctor's clinic, everyone sits there, no one talks. Everyone's waiting in the waiting room to be seen to. The receptionist is usually quite stressed and doesn't talk to anybody, and there's a TV on, so no one relates. And there's some magazines like Wildlife or a business magazine.
But you wouldn't touch them if your life didn't
No.
depend on them.
They're always 3 years old
That's
as well.
where all the
sick people.
But you go into a chiropractic clinic and everybody's talking, and the CAs are beautiful, and people all know each other. They hug you. Everybody hugs you, and I think it's a really beautiful, beautiful philosophy. And I would say to anybody listening to this, if you have never tried chiropractic,
you're missing out.
Whether you feel you're having a health expression or not, then look at it as maintenance and a part of your self-care and a part of your well-being. And I love taking my oils in, and Mark always uses different oils with me. They have the oils in the clinic when people come in. We're about to take a diffuser down there so that it increases the vibrational energy in the room. And all the chiropractors are like, hell yeah. Not one of them went, what? It was just, it's such a neat philosophy. You're very privileged, both of you, to have been brought up in it. Very, very privileged.
Gives us a good start in life, I think. I think a chiropractic household, or being brought up with the philosophy of chiropractic, gives you a brilliant start. Like, you would not have had medications or anything throughout your bringing up.
I haven't been vaccinated against anything. I think we were just talking about it the other day. Chelsea was asking me, you know when you take antibiotics and you feel real sick? I'm like, no, I've never had antibiotics before. And I said, darling, since we were married, name one time I went to the doctor. She's like, and she was like, sure there have been a time. I've never been to I don't see any. Well, there are times, don't get me wrong.
There are. In a crisis, there are emergency. We're there.
Don't come to me if you're breaking your leg.
Yeah, no, go to the emergency ward. But as far as, I'm in my 50s, and you're 30, just 30, and I've never had an antibiotic, you know? So this is the household that I was brought up in. If it's a life-threatening situation, let's go there. Yeah. But if it's not, then no. So I love hearing it. I love hearing it more and more, that there are more families that are beginning to realise that the power is within us. We just have to realise its potential by doing the right things by it.
Absolutely. And the need's been created out of the void that's been created.
Yeah.
So, if the medical system was doing an awesome job, I wouldn't have a job. Yeah. But, our profession is really built on the disappointments and failures of others, which,
Usually everybody's last hope. I've
Absolutely.
tried everybody else and thought I'd try chiropractic.
It's hilarious. It's a paradox. They go from
It
no
is.
hope to all hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they go, well, if we can't help you, no one can. Oh, okay, we better have hope then.
Exactly.
What a top interview. Thank you so much for joining us, both
Very
of
happy
you.
to be here.
Talk about spur of the moment. We just spoke to them on the phone and said, we're going to interview you. So thanks for coming and have a safe trip back to WA.
We
Give
will.
our love to the kiddies.
Thank you.
And good luck with your birth, my love.
Thank you.
Of both the baby and the album.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I am very clever. Everybody, I'm hilarious and I'm clever. I'm just going to add that in. So go to our Facebook page at allthews.facebook.com/up for a chat and let us know what your thoughts are about today's interview, and we will make sure that we put Chelsea's contact details on the page here, and we'll also put Matt's details on the page as well for all of our WA people so that you can get yourselves to a really awesome chiropractor. So thanks for joining us here today. You can also go to allthews.thewellnesscouch.com/up for a chat, and you can post your comments there. And join us here next week on Up for a Chat and become part of the ripple effect that's changing the world. We'll see you on the ride. Bye for now.
Hi, it's Damien Christoph here. 2015 marks perhaps the most important event the Wellness Couch has ever conducted. We've had 2 sold-out wellness summits these last years, but honestly, nothing will come close to our first ever wellness breakthrough. Your favourite Wellness Couch experts, the Up for a Chat girls, Quirky Cooking's Joe Whitten, Stu Hayes, Marcus Pearce, and of course the Wellness guys, are all gathering in Dandenong Ranges for 3 days and 2 nights for one incredible event. If you want possibly the greatest peer group in health and wellness to help you catapult your life to the next level, then we'd love to see you at the Wellness Breakthrough in February. For more information, go to www.thewellnesscouch.com.
Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavour to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.